Hello, and welcome to Secrets from Athletes, where we dive into what makes a top athlete and how you can apply their routines and mindsets to your own life. I'm your host, Andre Scholl, and today with me I have my friend Henry Billington, who just committed to Tufts University to row in college. How are you doing today, Billy?
I'm doing great, Andre. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Not too bad of a Monday so far. Great way to start the
Solid.
week.
Yeah, don't love Mondays, but it's gone by, so there you
Yeah,
go.
hey, hopefully this will make it better.
Yeah.
All right, first question. How'd you get into rowing and what made you stick with it?
Yeah, so, the way that I got into rowing was actually kind of a funny story. I usually drag this one on a little bit. I mean, I probably could be a bit more concise about how I did it, but um, in my freshman year, in my fall season, I didn't do a sport. I just lifted for a like school program after school. I was like, okay, I like lifting. This will get me like time on the basketball team or whatever. Um, and I played basketball all through middle school. So I was just gonna play basketball in the winters. Rowing was kind of like a second thought for me. I mean, my dad mentioned it like a couple times because he's a Brit. Like Brits love rowing. It's like basic knowledge. And he's like, "Yeah, you have the build for it, Henry." And I was like, "No, Dad, rowing's for nerds." So I was like kind of just putting it in the back burner. And I got to my spring season and I didn't really have a sport in mind. And I was like, I can't do two off seasons. It's just like not, I'm not that committed to basketball. So I was like, what can I do? So I went to the golf information meeting, and when I walked through the door, there was probably 85 to 90 kids, and more than half were upperclassmen. And freshman year me knew that I pretty much sucked at golf, and I just wanted like a couple rounds with my buddies, just be like, mess around. Golfing's fun when you're just with your friends and stuff. So I was like, all right, let's do that. Coach walks in, goes, if you're here to get a couple rounds in with your buddies, have a chill season, just leave right now. So, after the meeting was done, I was like, all right, can't do that. Went home, and I was like, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. My dad's like, yeah, Henry, you should row. Because I guess it's a spring sport, obviously. And I was like, all right, screw it. I got nothing better to do. We've had a rowing machine in my garage for 8 years or something. So I was like, oh, maybe it's a sign. And called up my friend, went to a practice, like met the coaches, the whole shebang. And then I had a spring season where I thought, I had fun. I had yet to experience like the true pain of a 2K. My first 2K was like 720 ish, I think, and that was like, relatively just kind of getting it done. I was a bit nervous, but I was like, okay. And then went through my season. I went to all the races. They raced me every time. They told me I was like very good for a freshman or solid for a freshman, but all my coaches were like, yeah, if you can break 7 minutes as a freshman, then that's it's pretty solid. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do that then. Why not? So we finished the season, and I went in my garage and I just did a 2K. I rated the entire thing at 37. I had no clue how to do form right, and I had the biggest fly and dive of my life. I started at a 138, which is like a 632, and then I ended at a 144.9. And my total score was, I believe, a 652, something of the sort. And I thought, wow, okay, I'm actually pretty good at this sport, and I live in a very suburban area, very nice area. So I'm thinking, everyone here has the same stuff. So if I just get good grades and like do SGA or random clubs, it's not really gonna get me anywhere in college admissions. And I'm like, oh, how am I getting to good school? So I was like, okay, maybe I'll just row because like I knew the Ivy Leagues and everything was like big on rowing, that kind of thing. And since then I just picked it up and went back in fall season. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna play basketball anymore. I need to prioritize rowing. And from then on, it's been rowing. My whole life is rowing. Most of my life is rowing.
I think that's how it happens, Rowan. It's your whole life. But
Yeah,
first, I gotta say, 652 flying and dying. That's
it was.
faster than I've ever pulled for a 2K, which I
Yeah,
think is a
it
little
was. Oh
insane.
man, I was like, wow, 300 meters left. I was like, what am I doing? I couldn't think straight, and I walked over to my lawn and I fell face first onto it. I was like dying. I just threw like obviously exhausted, like panicking. I was like, Dad, give me a pillow, and I took like basically a nap on my lawn, which was and at that point I was like, oh, well, I did it, so it's like cool now. It's chill now, because when you get done with the 2K, you're like, oh, I finished. I'm done.
That must have been quite the image for your neighbors, just looking out their window, seeing you with a pillow on the lawn.
Yeah, I mean, my backyard's a bit like out of the beaten path, but My brother was like, "What the hell did you just do?" I was like, "Oh, I was just rowing." So it was an interesting experience, but that's kind of where I realized that I should stick with this because I might have like a future with it.
For the listeners, a 2K, I've had some rowers on before, but again, it's a test of endurance. It's kind of you rowing a test to see how fast you are as a rower itself.
Yes.
It's quite something for a rower, as Henry was just saying.
Don't do it if you don't row. If you're doing like CrossFit, just find another thing to do. It's the hardest thing you will ever do in your life.
All right,
Yeah. If you're not rowing, don't do 2K.
quote of the day. All right. Speaking of quotes, what's the best piece of advice someone has given you from rowing?
Actually, I mean, the best piece of advice that I had, I think, was from my former head coach. He's not coaching me right now. He's got some like personal stuff. He's like starting a family, so obviously that's comes first. But this was in my sophomore winter, I believe. We had like a fundraiser kind of thing, and we were setting up for it. And I was telling him like, yeah, I think I'm training pretty hard now, and I'm. It's like kind of weird. I'm not really seeing results. The fall after my first freshman spring season, I went like 6:51. I cut off like 1 second, which is like I was like, okay, well I need to be like 6:25 ish to be recruited. So I was like, oh, I got a long ways to go. I'm not really sure what to do. I had no idea. So I kind of went to my coach and I was like, yeah, I think in the spring season I'm just gonna do like 10K a day after practice, just do steady states and stuff like that. And he said, no, 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 that's what you should be doing now, like in the winter season, because like that's where you need to build all the stamina and all the aerobic stuff now, because that's where you'll get really fast. And that idea hadn't really clicked in my head yet, because I was sort of just showing up, doing the workouts I was told to, and nothing more, nothing less, right? And I just like I guess I kind of plateaued at that point. I flied and died again in my winter 2K. I didn't PR, so I was like, oh dude, this sucks. Because not PRing and doing a 2K is like, ooh, it's harsh. But we went to our fundraiser. I had like a Sweet 16 the night before, a couple hours of sleep. I wasn't expecting anything great, but my brother beat me on a 2K. So that was a rude awakening, to say the least. Yeah, he went like 6:48 or something, and I was, a couple seconds slower, and that really ticked me off. I'm gonna be honest. So, after that day, it was 10K a day, 6 days a week for about 2 months, and I got down to 6:39 in my sophomore year. So I shaved off about 12 or 13 more seconds, which was definitely a big step, and it was very vital for where I was at.
I feel like that's just a perfect example of like consistency and how just doing it every single day, like you were
Yeah.
saying, gets you those results.
I mean, like there's days where it's not obviously going to be perfect. Like there's certain days where I'd be doing a sprint workout, and the sprint workout would only be about 4,000 meters, and I'd be like, oh, do I really have to go sit and do 30 more minutes of steady state in my house watching a TV show while I'm like already beat up from this workout? But I think the biggest thing that you can do if you want to really see consistent progress in your sport or whatever you want. I mean, obviously in like different sports, there's not always a linear progression. Like for, basketball, there's always like, different factors. But I think in like track and rowing, the biggest thing you can do is put the work in, because that usually is the most directly correlated thing for progress. And even showing up and not pulling the best numbers but getting through it is definitely like what I would say was the biggest thing for me. Like even on like snow days, my friends were like planning to go sledding and everything. I was in my basement doing 15K. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go do some steady state. And it's like finding the time where you could be doing more work, even if you're exhausted. It could just be like low pace, whatever, just in front of a movie. I always watch movies when I do steady state. It's like a hack of mine. But, just showing up and getting it done no matter what the pace or like what the form looks like is kind of the big thing for me, was why I made so much progress that year.
I feel like that builds the base because there's this quote: "You don't rise to the level of your goals; you fall to the level of your training." So this is exactly what you're saying, just building up
That
that
is
strong
definitely
base.
what growing is, yes.
It's pretty clear on the water what you've done and what you haven't done.
Yeah, you can't hide in rowing unless you're in an eight. But I don't row an eight, so can't really.
On the topic of advice, looking back on your journey, what's one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
Start earlier. I mean, if I had started in the fall and had a whole winter season, I could be a bit faster right now, and things might have played out a bit differently. But I am more than happy with where I'm going. And I'm definitely happy with the work I put in to get there. I think by the time or where I'm at now, I've probably put in upwards of 2 million meters, just like, in various forms. But, it just shows like it takes a lot to really get to that level. Obviously, I'm going to a Division III school. I was kind of a meathead for a while. I was like, oh, D1 or bust. But, I'm going to a school that's, could compete with many D1 teams. And, so I'm happy with it. And biggest piece of advice I can give my former self was put in more work earlier on, because that would have probably set me up better.
I think that's great advice, just putting in that work earlier. But I also feel to some point it's hindsight 2020.
Yeah.
It's looking back, oh, what if, and it's kind of just being grateful that you actually started when you started and how far you've come.
That's true. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't have been pushing my fall freshman year self the same that I'm pushing myself now or in the winter seasons, because, obviously I've grown, gained weight, height, that the whole shebang. But, kind of approaching the whole thing from like a smarter like perspective, like, obviously injury prevention and so many different factors go into it. But if I could have started earlier with proper coaching and everything, that definitely would have been beneficial, because most of these kids have opportunities to row in middle school. I had never even heard of rowing in middle school, so it's just I in my mind I started a bit late, but I just made the most of what I had.
And you made it work. You got recruited, and that's
Yeah.
great. So, on the topic of being a student athlete, that's not an easy task to accomplish. How did you balance sports, school, and just having a social life without burning out?
Well, the biggest thing for me is, I mean, honestly, I just try to figure out ways that I can put most of my work behind me. Like, and I have a study hall period, get work done there, finish different homework there. Um, but then again, you also need to balance that without trying to burn yourself out, right? Because if you are putting this much time into rowing and you're pushing everything off, and you're going to bed at 12:30 to 1 every night, which I've been honestly been doing a bit lately, but not so much. Um, it becomes hard to maintain it, and that's where you risk burning out. And the biggest thing that I try to avoid is doing that, because then everything kind of collapses. So the biggest thing I can say is try to be consistent with keeping your work in line in school. Obviously, as much as I would love to say like just go and do steady state whenever you want, if you have a giant homework load, I wouldn't recommend that. I would put that first, because obviously sleep is very important, and you definitely need to have recovery there. And if you have a ton of schoolwork like weighing down on you, that's definitely not going to be beneficial in any way. So I think just trying your best to get work done when you can. Like procrastination is the enemy. I do it personally. Everyone does it. Let's be honest. You will procrastinate at some point. So just trying to find times where you can figure out how to get the work done sooner. Obviously, it's not like a consistent thing, but just on the off occasion, you can get it done. It's definitely a good thing.
That's absolutely something I've been trying to do, especially now that it's senior year. With
Hmm.
college application is basically done. That senioritis is setting in.
Senioritis is, oh my god, it's like the Grim Reaper. But
Yeah, hold
uh,
out, hold out.
biggest thing right now is just keeping the grades up is
Yeah.
one big thing, because I am not actually in the school yet. I did submit my application, my only application, thank God. But I don't hear back until December. So obviously you want to keep your grades consistent, and you never really want to take your foot off the gas. I'm gonna be honest. Obviously, you can slow down a little bit, enjoy things a little bit more, but you should still be consistent with these habits, because you're gonna take that into college. And that's definitely gonna get more intensive being a student athlete, especially if you're gonna do a sport in college. Which it's not for everyone. It's fine. it's not your cup of tea. I understand that, but you're gonna be involved in so many different things, clubs, internships, like that whole thing, like studying a bunch. You just need to really find a way to make a schedule for yourself and to follow it. And honestly, the biggest thing that I've found is by like kind of following a schedule properly, that does leave me room for, having that social aspect, hanging out with my friends, going for late night drives on occasion, or, like seeing them on the weekends and doing what I want to do rather than just my mountain of homework that is sitting in my computer, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because I think
absolutely.
you got to balance all parts of it.
Absolutely. The brain is, in science, they say it's a muscle, and by having that schedule, you're training it to a point
Mm.
where it does it, its muscle memory does the schedule, and you get so much free time. So with rowing, everyone has, in all sports regardless, not just rowing, typically people face some sort of challenge. What's the biggest challenge you've faced in rowing, and how did you overcome it?
Um, well, I think the biggest challenge for me, just like throughout my years rowing, has been honestly just like the scenario that I'm in with my team, because very small team, you know, we get miscellaneous like people, like different builds, heights, everything. We got to train consistently, and for me, the biggest challenge has been figuring out what to do, which is like very vague statement, but a lot of the coaching that I've received has either been just like random, I guess, like random fixes, or just like random things that are tossed in here and there. But the majority of the training that I've put in, or that I have like put myself through during the summers and stuff, or outside of practice, has been researched by me, figured out what's best for me, and kind of going off of that. Obviously there's like different ways that people on the outside have like helped me. Like obviously coaching now, it's solid. Like I love my coaches; they're very helpful. But when it comes to, there's like a limit to what they really like offered me, and I had to kind of fill that gap. But in a way, that's kind of a double-edged sword, because I came out of it, faster, stronger, bigger, and happier with where I am. But I really did have to put in the research, put in the work, the hours by myself. In the summers, like building my own training plans, like that kind of thing, to get where I am today. And I think that it would have been a bit easier if had I had like a little more coaching, but it definitely helped me build this resilience and this like drive to put in the work outside of what I'm told to do, which definitely was a reason that my coach at Tufts like took a liking to me and kind of noticed what I was doing, especially as I had like an Instagram, posting my workouts and that kind of thing. It's definitely good to show that you're putting in work like throughout the year is the big thing for me.
I feel like what you're saying with making that plan,
Mm.
that by you making it, it actually kind of gives you an advantage because you know yourself better than anyone else. I feel like is a valid assumption to make. So by you knowing yourself, you can craft that plan to be even better. And then, like
Mhm.
you're saying, you build up those resilience and that drive when others your age might not have had that built up for them because they weren't putting in that work to create the plan themselves.
Yeah, 100%. I think it builds like a bit of a like, competitive advantage, because it kind of, if you can teach yourself these habits rather than have someone teach it to you, you build this like, individuality and this resilience that doesn't make you necessarily like, I'm not gonna say a follower. Obviously there's like training plans that have been taught that work, and definitely amazing programs with great coaching that, breed these great athletes. But I think when you have the opportunity to take control of what you're doing, that can definitely build some really strong, like a really strong sense of, self, and help you kind of think by yourself.
It creates that identity that like no one can take away because it's
Hmm.
you've built it yourself.
Yeah.
So on the topic of challenges, now let's shift to skills. What is one of the best skills you have learned from rowing, and how have you applied it outside of the sport?
Yeah, this is very cliche, but I'm just gonna say the discipline. You know, you know it personally. Our sport is one of the most, physically challenging I think there is. Obviously, everyone's gonna argue that their sport's the hardest. I've heard wrestlers say that. I'm not gonna disagree. It's a very hard sport, but I think, like being willing to put yourself into a place where it feels like you're going into hell, and you have to do it and you come out alive, it's probably one of the most challenging things I've been faced with in my life. Especially like sitting in front of a 2K or like a really hard workout and you don't really want to be there, but you know you have to get it done. It's definitely one of the biggest things for me. It's just like the understanding that even though it's like this gigantic challenge that's in front of you, or like this mountain of like, or whatever, like pain or work or, you know, whatever that may be in your life that's in front of you, if you just simply show up and you try to piece it together and just get each little part done and they all stack up and eventually you get it done. And that is kind of, I think, in essence, just what rowing is. It's like putting in the work and having the discipline to show up on the days you don't want to. 6 a.m. morning practices, you're freezing, your hands can't move, you're cramping everywhere, but you're just getting it done. And I think that translates into every part of your life. You know, schoolwork definitely was a big thing. It definitely showed me like that resilience. I've probably never skipped a homework assignment in high school. You know, and I think it also helps with like, you know, building your own confidence. You have confidence in your abilities in one thing in your life that'll translate to meeting new people. You know, if you're going to start a business, it like helps build connections with people, with schools, with coaches, with professors, like anything that you can think of. Having this like confidence in your own abilities and knowing that you are willing to put in the work to see results is like the biggest thing that you can do, honestly. And that's what rowing has taught me.
I've never actually thought about it that way with the confidence part. Now, as you say, you're absolutely right. Like you were saying earlier, pushing your body, going through for rowers hell basically, and then coming out of it alive. The like kind of confidence you get from that, not like ego, but actual confidence because you put in the work to get to that point and you
Yeah.
push for yourself. I feel like that's a wonderful point. All right. So, since you're talking about skills, skills are built by habits. Is there one habit you would recommend as a daily habit for athletes?
Put in the work. Simple enough, you know. You know, whether that's like you don't want to go to a lift or you have some free time on your hands and you could go do a workout before something, just do it, you know. Um, Obviously, if you have like if your body is kind of out of it, you know, you're tired, you're crazy sore. Obviously, I'm not going to suggest that you push yourself through injury. Worst thing I could ever recommend doing. I would never recommend that. But, you know, if you're like just kind of bored and you have that time, just go do some steady state. Go do a light run. Go do something, you know, because just like giving yourself the opportunity to put in extra work kind of just helps you build these habits, and it's almost like a test of like how much you're willing to put into it. Because in like anything in life, however much you put in is however much you're going to get back, right? Whether that's like effort in school, effort in like your job, you know, or effort in a sport, however much you put into it is however much you're going to get in return. And I think the more that you put in, the more opportunities open for you and the more you set yourself up for success.
I feel like with those things, like you were saying, if you don't want to do it, now of course, like don't push through injury. You
Yeah.
should never do that. Don't do that. But like if there's something you don't want to do, and it's like pushing yourself, what if I do this? What if I actually do this? It's not gonna harm me. And kind of by doing those hard things, you build up, like you're saying, those habits and that discipline for success.
Yeah.
All right. What's the funniest story you have from rowing?
Oh, I flipped an eight.
Flipped it an eight.
Yeah. See, like I don't know how. It was my freshman spring. I was in a boat with. We had a very. I'm not gonna say the name for this eight. It's a bit insensitive, but we called it something that it was not very smart, like IQ wise, you know. Um, and I think I was six seat or seven seat in the boat, but yeah, okay. That was not
All right.
intentional.
All right.
Thank you.
Not intentional.
But you know, we were like doing starts or something like that. We like took a stroke. It was terrible. He was like, "Stop. Okay, we're gonna redo it." And we went to do it. We took the first stroke, and on the second one, we all went up, and like no one, I think everyone like smashed their oars down because my bow seat said, "I look forward and I see this."
With
And
all the blades in
all
the
the
air.
oars, bro. Every single one was like this. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? So we started leaning. I'm like trying to fix it. I'm like, come on, guys, what's going on? We start leaning. And we take on probably like the slightest little bit of water, like so recoverable. I look up and I see two guys had undone their feet and they just jump out. They jump. I'm like, I was like, all right, we're done. And then we just flip, you know. Honestly, that was probably one of the most fun practices I've had. We like the best part was my coxswain. The first thing he did wasn't like jump to safety. He took a selfie, and I still have that selfie. Of it's just like me swimming. I'm like dying laughing, and we're all like kind of just laying over this eight, like what is happening? And we got all the oars out, towed the boat back, and it was just this like it was just so much fun because it was so stupid. And I think not many people that row can say they flipped an eight. It's not very impressive, honestly, but I think it's probably one of the funniest stories I've had from rowing.
I'd honestly say it's very impressive because those things are like unflippable.
It's very hard to do. It takes a lot of. I'm not gonna say skill. I'm just gonna say like lack of.
Ability. It takes a certain ability to flip an
It's
eight.
yeah, not a good one though. It's just but it was a fun time. So I was fine with it.
All right, yeah. And the last question before the blitz questions: what are your future plans for college and rowing in total?
Yeah, well, my plans right now, obviously I'm gonna row 4 years at Tufts. And that's like a big thing. I'd love to win the D3 champs. We got some amazing guys coming in. You remember Maddox Lennon?
Yeah, Maddox.
Yeah. He's coming as
Too.
well.
All right.
I'm trying to get some of my buddies there as well. But I know a couple kids, and we got some good solid skills that are coming along. Along with that, too, I recently classified for the U.S. para national team. So right
Congratulations.
now I'm just thank you. Yeah. Right now I'm just training for the end of November. There's a single time trial that I have to do. Um, it's down in Mercer, and then from then on, all I need to do is do a 6K, I think, and maybe retest 2K. I'm not sure, because they send out like a certain time that you have to hit, which I'm not really sure what it is yet. But once I do the speed order, this time trial thing, and then send in my ERG scores, I can actually start getting paid, which is really nice.
Wow.
That's going to help cover my student loans and everything. And then next summer, I will be going to, I'm going to go to the World Cup at the end of June, which will be in Switzerland. And then I go basically straight to Boston for selection camp. And on the chance that I make it, apparently it's very likely, then I'll be training up in Boston for the whole summer to go to World Championships in New Amsterdam.
Wow. Nice. Well, I wish you luck. Keep me
Yeah, thank
updated.
you. Yeah, and then my like ultimate goal is beat the Brits in LA. That's that's the
Yeah.
goal.
All right. All right. Now moving on to the blitz questions. These are just some quick questions. Don't put too much into it.
Mhm.
So the first one: what's your favorite season of the year?
Ooh, like okay, low key. I'm gonna take winter. Honestly, it's like summer's awesome and you don't have school or anything, but like winter, there's just like a whole vibe. Like the whole, September through December months, the burr months with all the holidays and everything. It's just like a good
Yeah.
time. And
Even the snow. Snow is my
yeah,
favorite.
oh yeah, snow's awesome, dude. Like just like walking through my town or like from my friend's house to my house in the snow at night. It's like so peaceful. It's very nice. And I don't mind the cold, honestly. And in the winters you can heat up. You can't cool off in the summer if you don't have a pool. So.
Exactly. All right. What's your favorite TV show?
Ooh, that's a tough one, man. There's a lot of good ones because like I could just go and say like The Office, but that's like a bit bland of a thing to say. I love all sitcoms like Parks and Rec, The Office, Brooklyn Nine Nine, that kind of thing. But jeez, man, if I had to say a favorite show, I guess I just go Brooklyn Nine Nine. Honestly,
All
I
right.
there's so many I just can't think of one. What about you? Which one you liking?
Ooh. Right now, I'd have to say I'm a big Star Wars fan, so Andor. I'm watching that
Solid.
right now.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, my brother loves Star Wars stuff. I never really got into it, but there's some cool. There's some
Missing
cool.
out, missing out.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
All right. What's your favorite food?
Food, all food. I'm
All food?
currently on a seafood diet.
Really?
Yeah, I see food and I eat it. So that's how I go about things.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That took way too long for me to.
Yeah, but there's a couple things I won't eat. I hate beets. I mean, if they're cooked well, then yeah, I'll try it. I don't mind. But if it's just like not done well, they just taste like dirt. Blue cheese is gross unless it's like for wings. Wing sauce is fine, but gross. Besides that, and then those tiny eggs that they have in like Thailand with the tiny little duck in it, and you have to like eat it.
Mm.
Not doing that. Anything
Ultra
else?
specific last one there.
Yeah, most things are fair game. But those three are just no bueno.
All right. Who is your favorite music artist?
Dude, you're asking like these are questions where I just don't have answers to. It's like
All right.
I mean, I just like music. If it's good, I'll listen to it. That's my whole
Okay.
thing. I don't
First
care.
name that pops to your mind for artists.
First thing, Kendrick Lamar. You know,
Okay.
him or
Valid.
Kanye. Kendrick Lamar is one of my favorite songs. Father Time. If you haven't heard it, give it a listen. It's great.
That's a good song. That's a good song.
But there's good songs anywhere. Obviously, there's certain songs I might be like made fun of for listening to, like white girl music. I love white girl music. I just like there's no music that I wouldn't listen to unless it's like some weird thing like I keep seeing this guy doing like Mongolian throat singing. That's like not it. But anything else, and if it's good, I'll listen to it. Honestly.
All right. I like that attitude. All right. Favorite animal?
Whew. Yeah, I'd probably say dog. My dog Gus
Dog.
is pretty cool.
What kind
Yeah,
of dog you have?
he's like a mix of a bunch of different things, but he's nice. Like he's very personable with people. He loves meeting people, and he doesn't bite or bark very often. He's not annoying, so he's pretty chill.
Shout out Gus.
Shout out Gus. Yeah, shout out Gus.
What sport would you do other than rowing if you could go pro in any sport?
Basketball. I mean, I'm not good
Basketball.
enough. I'm not good enough. I'm gonna say that my basketball abilities are totally like right hand only. But if I could be like Victor Wembanyama, I would be like Victor Wembanyama.
All
That'd
right.
be cool.
What's your favorite basketball team?
Nets. Grew up in Brooklyn,
Nets.
so
All right.
I mean, I don't follow basketball so much. Like I don't really know how they're doing now, but season just started, so hopefully there's an upside there. There was a solid few years. It was like the KD, Kyrie, and
Harden, right?
Harden, yeah. But they never got to play in the same game. It was like so annoying. They got like 3 games together. But I mean, I was like born and raised in Brooklyn until I was like 6. So it's just I figured I wouldn't be like a bandwagon towards anyone.
Yeah. All right. And the final one, kind of tying it back to rowing. What's your favorite boat class?
Boat class, ooh, eights. Gotta say,
Eight.
dude, there's nothing better than being in an eight with a boat full of guys who are dedicated, want to be there, and who are fast. Cause you move. Like I went to Paris camp this summer, and in our eights race, it's like a boat full of guys who are all like basically under 630, and we were ripping it at like a 128, 127. Got waked out and came second to Nico Vavpedic. Shout out Nico. I'm beating you, Williams. Sorry, I don't know if he's watching this or not, but just in case.
Send it to
Um,
him. Send it to him when
yeah,
it's posted.
yeah, but you know, it's just so much fun being an A with guys that can really move because you can't go any faster, honestly, and it's just awesome. It's a good time. What do you
Yeah, I
think
feel
of
like that's the
that?
peak of. I was gonna say eight too.
Eight?
Either eight or single. Eights are just the peak of rowing, in my
I
opinion.
mean, I was in a single today, and I'm like kind of just figuring it out a little bit, but there was some time where you really you can really move in that thing, and it's nice. But gotta say eights. It's so upsetting that I can't field an eight for my team that it's like actually competitive because it'd be such a good time. But I'm really excited to row eights in college. That'll be a big thing. A ton of talent at Tufts, so really looking forward to that.
My school's actually running an eight, hopefully this year for the first time, like a varsity eight in a few years. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, dude, best of luck. I mean, when you figure it out in eight, it's like one of the best feelings ever. All the oars are off the water, the guys are just moving. It's just a good time.
All right. Thank you, Billy, for being on. Of
Of course, brother. Thanks for having me.
course. And thank you all for tuning into Secrets from Athletes. Make sure to follow on Instagram at secrets_from_athletes. Episodes are on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Go listen to them, and we'll be back with more Secrets from Athletes to help you refine your mindsets and routines.